Shalom. Today we'll be talking about nouns. And you've hopefully read on the Canvas page already the description of English nouns. Just kind of a reflection, a review of what a noun is in the English language. Both what it refers to and also how it functions in a sentence. And nouns function similarly, although in some ways quite differently, but similarly in Hebrew as they do in English. In the same way in English, in Hebrew, nouns refer to persons, places, and things. Objects, people, locations, and the like. Persons, places, and things. Now, in Hebrew, a noun communicates three things. Every noun will communicate three basic things. And those things are here. A noun will be gendered. Every noun will have a gender. Every noun will have a number. And every noun will have a state. Now, these three refer to general nouns and not proper nouns. So proper nouns like Avraham, which is a name, Abraham, is not going to function in exactly the same way as these will. For instance, the state of a noun, you can have either an abstract or a construct state. Proper nouns cannot be in the construct state, for instance. So they're always in the absolute state. We'll get to that in a future video. But on the whole, nouns will function in these three categories. And in each of these three categories, there are two options for every noun, every general noun. The two options for gender are masculine or feminine. In Hebrew, there is no neuter. There's no generic noun. They're either masculine or they're feminine. And the gender of the noun is determined or communicated, revealed, through the ending. And different endings will communicate different things with regard to both gender and number, and sometimes state as well. The number, there are two options as well, either singular or plural. Actually, there are three, now that I remember, singular and plural, and then a much more rare dual form. And I'll talk about that more in the number video. And then finally, state, there are construct state and the absolute state. I'll talk about that again later. I want to start with gender, though. Every Hebrew noun has gender. And it is not necessarily a reflection of an inherent masculinity or inherent femininity that the people of Israel identified in or acknowledged in whatever the object was. For instance, mountains are masculine, but the earth is feminine. There isn't necessarily anything inherently masculine about mountains or inherently feminine about the earth. However, those objects and all the others in creation that are nouns are given masculine and feminine identifiers. And it is, however, even though it isn't saying mountains are like men and the earth is like women, there is, however, a kind of tacit acknowledgement of the personhood of all of creation, which permeates all of the Hebraic worldview. The Hebrews said, the earth is filled with the glory of God. The earth is full of God's steadfast love. These are not inconsequential statements, but rather acknowledgments of the fact that the presence of the Lord permeates all of creation. And creation has a kind of character that is reflective of God's character. And The abundance of creation, for instance, in Genesis 1, is directly derived from God's abundance. And so there is a personhood to creation. It's not an inanimate object. Creation is at various points throughout the scriptures given thoughts almost. Some will say they're just idiomatic phrases, and in many ways they just are, but also it is a kind of indication that the Hebrew people sensed a personhood to creation, a character. And so the masculine and feminine genders reflect that in some kind of way, not as I said, in an overt or an explicit way, but in a kind of tacit or implicit way. And so you can have two gender. You can have either masculine or feminine. And the masculine and feminine character of a noun is generally expressed through endings. Now, masculine nouns do not have a particular ending. They can end in any letter, really. Not quite sure how to spell feminine. It doesn't look right. I'm not sure if that's right. So masculine nouns do not have a particular ending. Singular. Masculine singular nouns. Feminine singular nouns don't necessarily have a specific ending, but most often their ending is a comet's hay. You can see that. I think that comet's a little darker there. A comet's hay is the most common feminine singular ending. However, you can have a feminine noun that ends in any letter, really. You can have ruach that ends in a hate. You can have eretz that ends in a tzadi, sofit. It doesn't really matter. But most commonly, the comet's hay will be the ending of the feminine singular noun. You also have masculine plural nouns and feminine plural nouns, and those do have specific endings that are pretty consistent. Now, this is where gender and number overlap quite considerably, in that gender and number are both expressed through the same endings in nouns, as well as in adjectives, and as well as in nouns and adjectives. So masculine plural ending is Hirdik Yod Mem. Eem. Eem is the masculine plural noun ending. Feminine plural noun ending is a Holim Vav with a Tav. Oat. Eem and oat. So you've got eem, masculine plural, oat, feminine plural, comet's hay, as generally a feminine singular, and there's no specific ending for masculine singular. Now let me just correct one little thing from the textbook. On page 28 at the top, there's a chart that the author put in the textbook. It's a chart of endings, noun endings. And in that chart, she suggests that both eem and oat are noun endings for masculine plural, eem or oat, as well as for feminine plural, eem or oat. And she's right, But she doesn't give you a very important caveat that the masculine plural ending 99 times out of 100 is eam. And once out of 100, you'll have an oat as a masculine plural ending. And the same is true for the feminine plural. 99 times out of 100, it's oat. Once out of 100, it's eam. So for instance, with the word av is the word father. Av, if you add, make it plural, more than one av, fathers, it takes the feminine plural ending. Even though av is a masculine noun, it takes the feminine plural ending, so it's avot. So that's one of the 1 in 100 words as an example. So just remember that as you're looking through that chart on page 28. Most of the time, masculine plural is eam. Most of the time, feminine plural is oat.